All right, guys, welcome back to another video. So, gaming handhelds have had a reinvention, a renaissance, you could say, in the last couple of years, mainly because of the Steam Deck releasing. So, PC handhelds now are all the rage. We are seeing all the companies follow suit: Asus, Legion, Lenovo, all releasing these PC handhelds. MSI just is coming out with one. You have Neo, tons of companies releasing their PC handhelds to take advantage of a market that I think is probably growing at this point and becoming more popular as people are being able to play these AAA games on the go on these nice bigger screens. And it's actually becoming more feasible. The first time I would say really ever. The biggest thing right now with these PC handhelds is the battery life. As soon as that starts getting better and you can actually get like maybe 5 hours of battery life on these things, I think it'll be a major game changer. I have the Steam Deck, I have the Asus ROG Ally, and I'm a big fan of the Ally right now. I've kind of transferred away from my Steam Deck. I like having the Xbox and Windows experience on it more so than Steam OS, and it just runs smoothly, or smoother, I could say, with the ROG Ally. So there's a lot of discussion here as to whether Xbox should make an Xbox handheld. And I've always been in the camp that the way that they're going about their partnerships and their marketing and everything, with Game Pass being included with products like the Asus ROG Ally, I would be very surprised if they were to make a handheld, specifically an Xbox handheld. And now I'm kind of moving more over to the camp that I think that they should jump into that ring. And Jess Corden here has actually put out an article going over everything in the future potentially of an Xbox handheld. So let's read through it and I'll give you some of my thoughts on what I think about all of this. So he says here, if you're inside the gaming social media bubble, you'll probably be aware of nonstop discord over Xbox's hardware sales. And yes, it isn't selling as fast as the Xbox One did, but people often overlook the fact that far more so than ever, games are cross-gen compatible. Fortnite, Minecraft, FIFA, Call of Duty, the vast majority of the world's biggest are launching across both Gen 9 and Gen 8, including the Xbox One S and the original PlayStation 4. And that's actually a very good point, because we are now 4 years into this generation, and the biggest sellers every year are the Call of Duties, are the FIFAs, are the Maddens, and they are still cross-generational games. So people, if that's all they are playing, they may just stick with their PS4 or their Xbox One. For them, it's not even worth spending the $300 to $500 or whatever you're going to pay now for these consoles to upgrade and get the higher end version of them. It says here, the discourse revolves around comparisons to Sony's PS5 sales specifically, which are growing incredibly rapidly when compared to the Xbox Series X and the S, but the overall global market share of consoles isn't going up at the same rate by a long shot, and neither's Xbox's or Nintendo's console market share isn't decreasing in any meaningful way overall. In SEC filings, which have to be accurate for legal reasons, Microsoft describes its console engagement as being higher than ever, although they decline to give the exact figures. I'm thinking when they're looking at that engagement, it's their daily active users, their monthly active users. I mean, we just saw another number that shows how much engagement there really is on the Xbox platform. 7 million people on Xbox playing Palworld, which meant 3 million people daily on Xbox because it launched into Xbox Game Pass, which is a huge number for a single game. So you take that 3 million, you add it on to everything everyone else is playing as well. Their engagement, I think, is very, very high. So this goes here, it says, so giving Microsoft the benefit of the doubt, for the sake of argument, people are either buying multiple consoles for different ecosystems as companion devices, or the big two are simply servicing their established digitally locked in consumer base. Sony is undoubtedly doing a better job of moving PS4 users to the PS5 with a stronger lineup of nostalgic, well-known franchises. But I would argue that Xbox owners are probably considering PlayStation consoles as well, at least for companion devices, more so than the inverse, owing to a single player exclusive like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But Microsoft is still in the game with more users than ever across its ecosystem, of which Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S remains the largest chunk. Microsoft also just landed Palworld, the world's hottest game right now, as a timed console exclusive. It's hard to imagine that this isn't at least having some impact on console sales right now. I'm sure Palworld is. I mean, it is. We've seen some pretty awesome marketing for Palworld just popping up today, actually. There is a brand new advertisement. I'll probably show it and talk about it on a separate video, but it's really, really well done. And I've always critiqued Microsoft's marketing communications, but what they've been able to do with Palworld is really cool. And that piece of, I guess, advertising copy or whatever looks really awesome. And people are going to be, I think, buying consoles just for Palworld itself. But I'm definitely that person. I have a PS5 as my side piece, My like I only use it for their exclusives, and I barely am touching it these days because not only are they not releasing any first party exclusives, they're not even releasing any PSVR games. So I'm not touching my VR headset either. And we've finally got two nice VR announcements at their last state of play, so I will jump into those. But besides that, I mean, it just sits there and I don't really use it. Majority of my gaming does occur on my Xbox consoles. He says, either way, what about the future? If the overall console market share of the gaming industry isn't growing and Xbox users are mostly happy where they are, be it on the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X and S, where will Xbox's next big market come? Cloud gaming, Xbox Game Pass PC, and PC gaming are undoubtedly have a role to play, but more than ever, I believe a new hardware category absolutely has to be in the mix as well. And that's where you jump in here and talking about the actual handheld console market, the PC handhelds that have absolutely taken off again since the launch of the Steam Deck. It says Microsoft has a huge regulator-sized problem with regard to its wider ambitions. Yes, Xbox has acquired Activision Blizzard, which ended up costing more than $75 billion. And with that comes a large PC and mobile gaming presence, but Xbox console hardware and the Xbox console ecosystem remains the core of the Microsoft gaming umbrella. And I mean, I hope that's the case. I hope that is truly the case going forward, that the console ecosystem is Xbox's core and that they recognize that and make sure that they make the console gamers that feel like they are the core customer for Xbox, and going into the next generation stuff when they do release another console, that they stay along those lines. I know for myself, I am their core. That's where I mainly play, is on the Xbox console. They say you can't sell Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, Fortnite microtransactions, or copies of Gears of War 6 without platforms upon which to do that. And as I've outlined in previous articles, outside of Xbox console hardware, Microsoft has huge barriers and massive competition to overcome towards reaching those customers. On PC, Microsoft has to compete with Steam. Of course, Steam is the biggest, and I don't think anyone is coming close to them. The fact that many millions of players would rather buy games like Starfield and Palworld outright at full price on Steam rather than play it on PC Game Pass for a monthly fee showcases just how strongly attached people feel to their existing purchasing habits. Accessing iOS or Android gamers is also an uphill battle, since Apple and Google make doing business on iPad and iPhone as difficult as possible. We know Microsoft is trying to build up more within the mobile gaming market, and they've even talked about potentially creating their own store, as he talks about here, basically to compete with Google Play and Apple iOS, who do make it very hard for competitors to come in and succeed. And then there's also, of course, the cloud gaming side of things. And we know what happened with Activision Blizzard. They had to offset or give away their rights for the cloud gaming to Ubisoft to be able to license out where all of the Activision Blizzard games go in terms of the cloud version. So those games are going to be across all of the different cloud platforms. So Xbox definitely has a challenge to draw people into their ecosystem rather than going other places. Now, with that being said, they have done a very good job with Game Pass. I mean, people look at Game Pass as the best value in gaming. They have millions of subscribers. 25 million was the last number. I'm sure it's higher than that by a decent amount, because that was a while since we got that announcement, but they haven't given an official number as to where. Maybe they're waiting for that big Activision Blizzard drop of games that eventually should be coming, back catalog, and the newer games are going to be coming into the service itself before reporting their major numbers. So he talks a little bit about that, talks about NVIDIA GeForce Now, and then goes on to talk here about the Xbox console hardware that Microsoft can offer a complete experience on right now, saying, let's disregard my pessimism for Microsoft's activities on competing platforms. Even if Microsoft is the most optimistic company on earth, betting on Apple and Google welcoming Xbox Game Pass and in-game purchases with open arms, covering all of their bases with a diverse array of Game Pass endpoints, would be a far smarter business bet. There is one hardware paradigm that will overcome all these potential hurdles, while also helping Xbox find a totally new audience, which would be the handheld device. Now he goes on here, talks about some other things like the PlayStation handheld that has now been rumored the Asus ROG Ally that can run all of the PlayStation PC games. But then he says this part here, which is interesting. He says, I know from talking to sources familiar with Microsoft's plans that an Xbox handheld has been discussed and considered for some time, but you don't need to take my word for it. Leaked documents emerging from the FTC trial over Activision last summer confirm that Microsoft was exploring an Xbox handheld back in 2020, described it as out of scope for first party. You do take a look here at this slide that was leaked, and you can see handheld, mobile controller, media remote, and earbuds were all in the out of scope for first party bracket of this pyramid. So back in 2020, they thought right now they don't need to do that. And definitely, I don't think they did need to do that in 2020. They knew that going into the generation with the X and the S, they were going to have an uphill battle to get people jumping back into Xbox based off of what happened with the Xbox One, where they lost a lot of customers. And I think they did a very good job with providing that value and having people want to be on Xbox now again. So putting out another piece of hardware like a handheld at that time would have not been a good idea. But since then, as I said, we've seen the Steam Deck, we've seen the ROG Ally, we've seen the Legion Go, the MSI one. I believe that isn't out yet, but it is coming. You have Aya Neo making a bunch of stuff. You have other companies as well that have really made handheld gaming, handheld PC gaming, something that is realistic for a lot of people and probably preferable for a lot of people right now, depending on how they game. If it's hard to sit down in front of a TV or a monitor, or just finding that time to sit in front of a big screen, you just grab your Asus ROG Ally, you grab your portable PC device, and you go and you can play games across Game Pass, across Steam, across anything that you want. I know for me, it's my Game Pass. It is my Xbox, my handheld Xbox, essentially. It's really the only thing I use whenever I sit down with my Asus ROG Ally. And even on Steam, I just installed Windows on it and use it as a Game Pass device. So there is absolutely a major opportunity here for Xbox to eventually end up making an Xbox handheld. And I'm actually far more for this now than I was maybe last year or the year before. To me, I thought it just didn't make sense. They're already marketing Game Pass with all of these devices that are coming out. You literally are getting codes for months of free Game Pass when you do buy them. And I felt like that's probably all they're going to end up doing, is partnering with more of these PC companies and getting people into their ecosystem, because that's the end of the day really all they care about. Why would they want to go out and make new hardware if it isn't their main goal? But an Xbox handheld right now makes a ton of sense. And the way that they could, I think, just destroy the competition, where people will go over and pick up an Xbox handheld over another device, is just the usability of it. One of the things right now with the Asus ROG Ally or any PC handheld is using Windows on these handhelds still is not very good. It is extremely, extremely cumbersome. And yes, they have their launchers. Like you have the one for the ROG Ally, it has its own launcher. You click the button and you can see all of your apps, and it goes more into like a console experience. But even that is just okay, because you're still launching out into main Windows whenever you do launch a game or you do launch an application. If Xbox could take Windows and create a custom OS that is similar to like the Steam OS and make it a console experience in your hands, I think that would put the Xbox handheld far and away above anything that is out there right now. Although obviously we'll have these specs in there to compete, but it's just that user interface, that user design that is lacking right now with these PC handhelds. So that's a major gap that I think Xbox could take advantage of if they were deciding to release an Xbox handheld. I honestly hope it does happen. I'm really hoping at this point, because I will upgrade to a specific Xbox handheld for sure, because it's literally anything I play on my PC handheld is on to Xbox Game Pass. And there are many other things that could be added in here to make handhelds better. In fact, he says here, beyond gaming, an Xbox handheld could become a necessity for cloud, AI, and general computing. So those things could also play into this as well, specifically saying, so while Microsoft's arguments aren't necessarily altruistic, they're also true. The fact that Google and Apple control the default apps on their platforms will also harm Microsoft and others' ambitions. From the smallest companies to the biggest corporations, they also hurt Microsoft's AI ambitions, their cloud ambitions. They also hurt Microsoft Office and business ambitions. And of course, they hurt Microsoft's gaming ambitions. There's a limited version of Xbox Game Pass on Google Play, and Apple blocks Xbox Game Pass entirely on the iPad and iOS, pending some changes forced through by the UK regulators recently, which we did see that now they may be able to actually release their Game Pass games inside of the Game Pass app. and says, even then, Apple is known for its malicious compliance of regulatory decisions, abusing gaps in the legalese to work out ways to avoid full-blown capitulation. So basically, the way to combat this would be releasing their own specific Xbox, Microsoft handheld device. So hopefully this is something that does happen. I believe Phil Spencer actually did like this post on X, so maybe it's a hint. But I have a feeling now going forward, we're going to get closer now to getting more information about the future of hardware coming out from the Xbox division. But I just want to talk about this. I think it's pretty interesting. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. We'll be right back.